Today, everybody.
Okay, so we have the candidate, independent candidate for the seat of Lindsay in Penrith, Mark Tyndall. Mark Tyndall, thank you very much for joining us at the studio. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks for having me.
We are actually now, like I said, excuse the voice at the moment.
It's okay, no one noticed.
It looks like I'm eating apple when I'm talking. Okay, so I guess the reason that we asked you to come on the studio is, like Sister Cynthia here, majority, I find anyway personally, majority of the people in the community don't always closely follow politics. They're just too busy doing their work, the struggle. So I guess you'd know where we're all coming from.
Yeah, most
just trying to make sure that the kids are fed and that, keep the roofs over our head. That's what we know about. We don't know about what the Liberals, the Labour, the Greens, the Independents do. And I guess this is an opportunity for us to know what it is that you stand for and how the community could benefit if you have you as representing us.
Yeah, sure. Look, again, thanks for taking the time out and inviting me here today. I think basically what I stand for is real representation, and I think realistically that's what we're missing. We're missing down to earth, real, genuine representatives that are not focused so much on party politics, but they are focused on the guy, people like yourself, people like me. I'm a father of 6 children.
Yes, that's amazing. That's a job on its own.
That's very well blessed, that one.
Look, I've lived in Penrith 41 out of my 45 years. I'm showing my age now.
Trust me, you're a lot younger than we are. We check you out.
I know. So like myself, I said I mentioned to Brother John that I don't know much about politics in Australia. We don't really follow it, but then again, to be a little bit not so ignorant, I Google you today. And you talk about education and health, and you talk about being independent candidate. I mean, for me, as a regular, part of the public, how would you convince me to vote for you?
Well, look, I think the important thing from an independence perspective is purely based on the fact that I can advocate for whatever's in the best interests of my electorate or the electorate, as opposed to one of the two major parties, and they are clearly going to advocate for what's in the best interests of their party, and that may not necessarily be in what's in the best interest for the people of Lindsay or the people of Penrith. Or the people of the wider Western Sydney community. As an independent, then I've got that ability to be able to negotiate with whoever's in government at the time to get the best outcomes for the local electorate.
So education and health, you're talking about beds is it in the PM?
Look, I'm talking my if elected, I would certainly be looking at more strategic investment in Lindsay and Western Sydney as a whole, whether that be in hospitals, whether that be in education. Again, I go back to my experience and my background, and that being the fact that I'm a father of 6 children. I know what it's like the costs associated with putting kids through education.
Yes.
I know what it's like to sit up in the emergency ward at the PM hospital and wait for hours on end, just to get in and be triaged and see. Now, our hospitals and our education system, they are doing a fantastic job. They are understaffed, under pressure and under-resourced, and that's the reality. We've got our nurses. I've reached out in the last couple of weeks to the Nurses and Midwives Association, and the reality there is that they are understaffed. We've got nurse-to-patient ratio issues. We have had for years. Now, again, that's under both a Liberal and a Labor government. So one can't advocate that they have done better than the other. Yeah. They haven't.
So why do you think it doesn't change? I mean, you talk about changes. I read about on what your proposals are. And in my head, I'm thinking this is another politician in front of me that's trying to change anything, but is this really going to happen for us?
Okay, well, let me put it this way. I want change. And I'll be a little bit selfish here. I want change not only for you, but I want change for me. I'm a resident of Lindsay. Yeah. I've lived and been raised in a great community. and I want things fixed. I'm sick and tired, and probably in part the reason why I am where I am, and that is, being pushed by my wife, supported by my children. But the reality is that I'm just sick and tired of sitting on the sidelines, arguing, saying, why have we got the wait times in hospitals? Why don't we have better education? Why don't we have more strategic funding to Lindsay, to Western Sydney?
Yeah, I guess that's it's good that you got to push your wife.
Oh look, it's funny because my two youngest are twin boys. And they, there's only one caveat for Dad running for local member, and that is that you don't come to school and you don't embarrass me.
Okay.
No, sorry, this is something very important that's happened recently as well. My biggest, to me, a lot of the biggest concern is, I guess, employment in the, especially in the outer Western Sydney region. We see it in double digits. Now, recently you've been involved with the Jobs for Western Sydney, which I'm glad to have met you there. Now this morning you also had one of the things that we're looking at Jobs was the pros and cons of having the fast rail or the airport coming across. Me personally, as just I guess one of the citizens here, is that all I care about is, okay, who's gonna give the best opportunity for jobs. At the moment, we had an information session on why the benefits of employment for fast rail. We haven't heard much for the airport being open at the moment. Now there's a few questions, and I believe that you probably come across from your you met with some of your constituents on a regular basis over what you call the coffee candidates.
Yes.
I think it's a great initiative you have. I'm sure something will have brought this up to you. What are some of the concerns of having the airport? Is it a done deal? Is there a benefit? What can we expect? And we don't know much about this. People in Western Sydney aren't aware of what's happening. All we hear is that there's a groundbreaking, but then we don't know anything else how it's going to affect us. What do you know about that?
I think with regards to one of the points you just made then around whether it's a done deal, I think with regards to that, it's whatever the government leads people to believe. Now, they've literally turned some soil. We've gone no further with that. I'm not entirely convinced that the airport is the ultimate solution. I think there hasn't been enough of a review done or a focus on other options such as high-speed rail. Now, what I am conscious of is the fact that it isn't both. It's one or the other, high-speed rail or an airport. I was out this morning at a rally out at Luddenham for the anti-airport. Now that's not necessarily suggesting for a second that I'm advocating as an anti-airport advocator. What I am concerned about is the fact that there are a number of issues that aren't being addressed. If we look at the fact that Western Sydney, or out in Lindsay and Penrith area, we live in a basin. The reality is, again, is that we've got pollution issues. I heard them mention this morning that Western Sydney's got one of the highest rate with regards to asthma sufferers, respiratory issues, and we're going to go and dump an airport in a basin that, by pure nature of the fact that we're surrounded by the mountains, is going to collect that pollution. I really don't think that there's been sufficient consideration given to other options such as high speed. Can I just say one other thing too? Is we talk about the infrastructure that's needed for the airport. Now we know the North-South Rail. We've done nothing. They've turned soil for the airport. We haven't even looked at building it. There's been studies. There's been independent studies done for the North-South Rail. Has there been any construction? We haven't even...
See, there's a lot of concern, again, listening to all this, and you want a lot of changes. But again, someone that's listening to you, you don't have a party to support you. Yep. How are you going to do all this stuff?
Again, that goes back to the negotiation. It's probably no different than if I was to suggest that irrespective of what... let me put it this way. Lindsay's generally a bellwether seat. So whatever the government is generally what the representative out in Lindsay. That's the way it's always been until the last election, 2016 election, when we had a Labor candidate or a Labor member. So the reality is that unless you're aligned with the government, then it's going to be difficult to get anything.
Yeah.
For me, as an independent, I've got the ability to be able to negotiate with, irrespective of who's in government. We've got more ability to be able to get more strategic funding for Western Self for Lindsay, with the ability to be able to I'd like to say swing it away.
So what you say, you don't have to listen to the dictate of your party. That's why you become an independent.
That's exactly right.
So let's talk about your experience to actually lead your.
Yeah, sure.
So if you can talk about a bit of your experiences, why would they vote for you?
Okay. Probably because I mean, at the end of the day, I started off. I was schooled here in Western Sydney, and I went to a number of schools, and that was purely based on the fact that my parents chose to send me originally to the public school, and then for whatever reason enrolled me into the Catholic education system. I left school. I finished my HSC, went and worked for probably one of the hardest employers that I know of, and that was my father. So I learned you know, the value of hard work, the value of commitment, and from there it's just grown. You know, I've more recently I'm almost finished my Bachelor of Criminology. Yeah. So you know, at 45 years old, I'm still furthering my education.
Because it's so old.
Oh look, I'm not sure whether that's just to get me out of the house. But
older than that. So you know we're older.
Yeah, but you know, but again, with regards to experience, you know, I've worked hard, and I'm not suggesting for a second that any of the other candidates, you know, politics itself, either running as a candidate or if you're a sitting member, it's a damn hard job, and I make no bones about that. But when you're running as a candidate and working full time, and you've got a full household,
that's right. That's a lot of responsibility.
It's a lot. So it takes, you know, my day can start at anywhere between 4:45, and sometimes, you know, I'm still sitting up well past midnight.
Well, you're not expected to sleep, are you there? Now, can I just two last things before we finish up?
Yeah.
I guess, what is it as you know, people from Penrith, Blacktown, I mean, Peanuts in the West, what can we do to get those answers that we're looking for, to see, you know, whether that everything has been done right for the airport or for the fast rail? I mean, what can we do to, I mean, what do we do? Do we write to the MP?
How do we support?
How do we support? How do we even get the answers? And the last thing is, I've read somewhere this morning where Emma Hassar, obviously, because you're also battling for the same seat, is that she hasn't actually closed her door. Like, she's pretty much left an idea that she may return. So those two things, what would be your comments towards that one? So I guess the first thing is, what can we do to make sure that we get what we need to get in Western Sydney in terms of the answers for the airport?
Okay. Well, to answer that, what I would probably ask for your listeners, and that is, if you have issues, I certainly want to know about them. You know, you can either jump on the Facebook page, visit my website. If you go on the website, I'm contactable. You won't, and again, this is not a dig at any of the members collectively, but you'll pick up the phone, and I will be the one that answers. So if you've got a question, you want to know where I sit on a particular issue, feel free, or any of your listeners, feel free to pick up the phone and give me a call. Send me a message. Email me.
The website is Mark Tyndall, TYNDALL.com.au.
That's right.
Okay, and the phone number, if they need to contact you as well?
Yeah, phone number is 1300 Mark 4L.
That's it. And of course,
it's very easy to reach you.
Mark Tyndall.com.au is nice and easy website, and the comments about Emma Hassar's may be returning. Or maybe
Look,
not,
I'm not
here.
here to comment on the federal member's decision whether she will or she won't. What I'd probably say is that that's something that she needs to look at with regards to whether that's in her best interests. I mean, there were comments that she did make as to her reasonings, not only just for the issues that were in the media, a couple of months ago now, but there were cited issues around family. And I go back to what I said before. It's a hard gig.
Yeah.
She's certainly been in the firing line, and to some degree, I don't necessarily agree with some of the reasons behind it.
And are you ready for this? Because I read a bit about Emma, and again, you only mentioned it to me last night, so I just wrote about it just to catch up. So if you actually have these challenges, I mean, what would you say to me as a candidate again? And then when we decided to vote for you, with all these challenges and trying to put you there, what would you say to people?
Look, I'm an open book. So I'm probably like just about anyone in the community, and that is, have I made mistakes? Yeah, most definitely. I've worked damn hard to get where I am. You asked me the question, am I up for it? You better believe it, because again, I'm sick and tired of being that armchair critic. I'm sick and tired of being the person on the sidelines asking the questions around why we haven't got better service in our hospitals, why our nurses are battling on a daily basis just to do their job, why we don't have more strategic funding for Western Sydney. And I think they're the things that I'll certainly be advocating for, and I'll certainly be fighting for if elected.
That's a good way to end the session. Again, you can contact him at marktindall.com.au. Mark Tindall, thank you very much for your time, and we wish you well and hope to see you again here.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll just have a quick Christian music, and then we'll head on to the next segment. Thank you very much.